The ground has been restless lately. You can't explain it, not with words, not the kind you know, but you feel it. A deep tension in the bones of the earth. It hums beneath your feet, not like a sound, but like something alive. When you step on stone, it doesn't sit still. When you drink from the stream, the water tastes wrong. The animals knew it first. They left days ago. No fanfare, no noise, just gone. Herds of bison that once stampeded through the valleys. The wolves that watched from ridgelines. Even the birds. Gone. And now the sky has started to change. It's a pale thing today. Yellowed and thin, like old hide stretched over too much light. The clouds don't move the way they should. They spiral. They pulse. You've never seen clouds pulse. The sun still rises, but it has grown tired. Dimmer. You can look straight at it now. That's not right. You ask the elders, but they give you silence. Not because they don't know, but because they remember. And remembering hurts. At night the stars hide. The moon refuses to show its face. And when the wind moves, it brings dust. But not dust like before. This dust bites. It gets in your teeth, your eyes, your lungs. It makes the children cough in their sleep. There are no names for any of this, only instincts. So you listen. You stay still longer than usual. You sleep closer to the fire. You sharpen tools even though there's no hunt. You keep your feet bare to feel the ground when it shifts. And it does shift. Sometimes only a little. A stone knocked loose from the ridge. A crack in the mud that wasn't there before. Other times it shudders through the camp and the fire jumps. Once, in the middle of the night, a loud cracking sound woke you. You thought it was thunder, but there were no clouds, only the black sky and the silence that came after, the kind of silence that dares you to breathe. You begin to dream strange dreams, of mountains that bleed smoke, of rivers that turn to steam, of a sky that peels away in layers, showing something red beneath it, like meat. You don't know what dreams are, but you know what fear is, and you feel it now, all the time. Not loud and sharp, but slow and patient, like the shadow of a lion waiting in the grass. Your tribe doesn't speak about it, but you see it in their eyes, in the way they pack things they don't need, in the way they glance behind them when walking, in the way the fires are made larger now, even though wood is harder to find. There's a tremble in the trees. The leaves hang strangely, as if listening. The birds that once sang at dawn are missing. Entire forests have gone quiet. Even the insects have stopped chirping. Something is coming, and it isn't just weather. One morning, you wake to find the river gone. Not dried, just gone. It has turned to steam, like breath on a frozen day. The rocks where you used to kneel are cracked, blackened, hot to the touch. Steam still curls from their seams. The fish lie dead on the banks, eyes wide, mouths open, as if gasping for a sky that betrayed them. That night the horizon glows. Not the gentle orange of a sunset. This glow is deeper, redder. It pulses like a heartbeat, and it doesn't fade. Even as darkness falls, the red remains, licking the edge of the world like fire behind a curtain. You try not to stare, but you do, because something inside you understands. That is not the sky. That is the earth opening. You don't know the word supervolcano. You don't know what magma is, or pyroclastic flow, or atmospheric collapse. You don't need to. Your body knows. Your breath knows. Every animal that fled before you knew. And now you know. You will not see tomorrow in the same world. You sit beside the fire that night, eyes fixed to the glow in the distance. Your people are quiet. No stories, no songs, just breath and heat and waiting for the world to end. But not all at once. No, it will end slowly, in layers, in stages. The light will die first, then the air, then the food, then the memory of what the world used to feel like. And yet still you sit, because running isn't an answer, because silence is sacred now, because maybe, just maybe, the earth will change its mind. It won't. But you hope anyway. You stare at your hands, cracked, blackened from smoke and dust, and wonder what you will do with them when the trees are gone, when the sky goes black, when ash falls like snow, and the cold that follows isn't winter, it's punishment. But the fire still burns, and as long as fire burns, You are not yet erased. That is where you begin. Not with the eruption, but with the stillness before it. The quiet, the signs, the breath before the scream. This is where your story begins. At the edge of the world, watching the horizon glow. The glow doesn't sleep. It flickers low across the edge of the world, casting strange shadows through the trees. Long, wavering shapes that move, even when nothing else does. At first, your tribe tried to treat it like a distant fire. Something far off. Something someone else started. Something that would burn out on its own. But fires don't stay still. And this one grows. Each night the red pulse creeps closer, even if the land between you and it seems unchanged. You can't tell if the sky is getting darker or if the glow is getting brighter. Either way, your nights are no longer truly dark. There is always that smouldering reminder out there, behind the hills, beyond the trees, just past the limits of your understanding. You're not the only ones who've seen it. Other tribes have passed through, quiet, haggard, with soot-streaked cheeks and smoke in their hair. They don't say much, they don't need to. You see it in their eyes, the memory of something that should not be alive. They speak in half gestures, in fragments. Sky opened, ash rained for days, no animals, no sun. Their stories are riddled with gaps, as if the words themselves were burned out of their mouths. One man shows you his feet, burned, blackened, not frostbite, heat bite, as if he stepped on coals for miles and forgot to scream. They leave as quickly as they come, but not before giving you a single gift. Warning, it becomes clear now, this is not a passing thing. The earth is changing, and it is not waiting for you to catch up. Your people gather at dusk, no fire tonight, only the dull glow from the horizon, casting enough light to see each other's faces, drawn and quiet. The elders sit in a circle, holding carved stones and bones like relics, things passed down from before. They talk in hushed tones, low and slow, and even though you cannot hear every word, you understand the shape of the conversation. This is not the first time the world has tried to bury its children. The elders speak of a time before stories, before the stars found their homes in the sky, when fire lived beneath the ground and came out only to feed. They say the mountains once cracked in half and the sky turned to soot for moons, that entire forests drowned in ash, that the rivers boiled like blood, and now, they say, the fire is waking again. You don't sleep that night. You lie beside your brother, your back to his chest, the smell of smoke clinging to both of you. You feel his breath against your neck. Slow, uneasy. You whisper the question you're not supposed to ask. Will we die? There is a long silence. Then, yes. But then, softly, he adds, not now. And for some reason that matters. Not now. The next day the sky goes wrong. You wake to a light that is neither morning nor night. A kind of colourless glow. Grey. Thick. You look up and see no clouds, no sun, no blue, only ash. The entire sky is made of it. A blanket stretched across the world, pressing everything down. The air tastes like stone. Ash falls slowly, gently, like the first snow of winter, but it carries heat. It gathers on the furs, the tools, your hair. It gets into your mouth when you breathe. It stings your eyes, your throat. It coats the meat you are drying on the rack. It buries footprints within minutes. The fire in the distance is no longer a glow. It's a wall now. Not flame but smoke. A curtain pulled across the land. Thick, alive. It rolls and curls and swallows everything. The mountains behind it vanish. The sky above it goes dark. You don't know how close it is anymore. You don't know how much time you have. So you move. There's no plan, just instinct. West, maybe, or north. Anywhere that feels less hot. You pack only what you need. Water, dry roots, the sharpest stones, the youngest child slung across a mother's back. You leave behind the shelters, the cave markings, the bones of those who didn't wake up in time. It feels like betrayal, but there's no other choice. You walk and walk and walk. The ash follows. It clings to your eyelashes, your fingers, your breath. It's not a thing anymore. It's the air itself. You begin wrapping hides around your mouth, dampening them with spit or snow when you find it. It helps, but not much. Some of the tribe coughs blood. Some stumble and don't get back up. You stop burying them. There's no soil for it anymore, only ash, and fire, and more ash. At night you dig shallow furrows in the grey earth and curl inside them, hiding from the wind, from the flakes that fall like curses. The stars are gone. The moon is gone. You sleep in a world with no sky. Some begin to talk to the dark, not in madness, but in ritual. They whisper apologies to the wind. They chant to the fire beneath their feet. They press their hands into the soot and beg the mountain to close its mouth. You don't join them, not because you don't believe, but because you know belief is not enough. What you need now is something else. A plan, a path, a way through the ash. Because the mountain has opened, the sun has died. And if you are to survive what comes next, you must become something the fire does not expect. It begins not with fire, but with breath. Your own breath, shallow and dry, rasping through the damp cloth tied across your mouth. Every inhale feels like pulling in dust. Every exhale leaves a smear of warmth against the ash-choked air. You don't know how long you've been walking. There are no stars to mark time, no shadows to trace. Only the red fog behind you and the grey world around. The sun has vanished, not set vanished. Days pass, you think they're days. But without the sun, time is only distance, only motion. Your feet tell you more than the sky. Blisters speak instead of clocks. You measure progress in cracked lips, in bodies left behind. The older ones fall first. Not because they're weaker, but because they remember more. They feel the shape of the land beneath their feet shifting. They know when something has changed forever, and they stop. They sit in the ash. They hum old songs. Then they close their eyes and disappear into silence. You do not stop for long, because to stop is to sink. The ash is piling now, deeper with every hour. It covers everything. Trails, rivers, memories. You've started tying strips of leather to your feet to keep from sinking too far into it. Others use branches, some crawl, anything to keep their bodies above the grey. One night, if it even is night, you hear a sound. Not the coughing, not the crunch of footsteps. A sound like the world inhaling. And then comes the roar. It doesn't come from above, it comes from under. A deep cavernous scream that moves through the earth, not over it. You fall to your knees, everyone does. Not from choice, but from something older than language. Your bones remember this sound, even if you've never heard it before. The earth is breaking. You see it in the distance, through the swirling red fog. A wall of fire, moving like an ocean wave. Not toward you, not yet, just there. A promise, a boundary line you cannot cross. The mountain is open. The volcano, though you do not have that word, has come to life in full. And it is not just one. There are more. Somewhere beyond sight, the planet is unravelling. You find a cave that night. Low, narrow, damp, a crack in the bones of the land. You crawl inside and press your body against stone, listening to the rumble echo through your chest. The ground beneath you feels soft, but not with comfort. Soft like something hollowed out. You sleep for the first time in what feels like forever. Not deeply, not peacefully, but completely. You don't dream, you don't think, you simply vanish. When you wake, the world has changed again. The ash is thicker now. It no longer falls, it hovers. It chokes the air like fog, refusing to drift. You push your way through it, one arm ahead, like parting spiderwebs. The trees you pass are dead, their bark blistered, their limbs reaching upward in frozen agony. Every branch snaps like bone. You don't see animals anymore, not even the insects. Only silence, and in that silence your mind changes. You stop wondering when the eruption will end. You stop wondering when the sun will return. Instead, you begin thinking like prey. You look for caves, for high ground, for places to breathe. You begin watching the wind, not for weather, but for ashfall. You drink from melted snow, if you can find it, sometimes from puddles in the hollowed footprints of those who walked before. Your thoughts narrow. Not how will we survive, but what will keep us alive for the next hour. You become like the scavengers that once stalked your old camp. Eyes low, ribs showing, clever and fast. You chew bark. You suck marrow from bones, You eat roots you would have buried weeks ago. Some taste bitter, some taste wrong. You eat them anyway, because hunger changes everything. Your skin itches constantly from the soot. Your hair is clumped with grit. Your throat is a raw tunnel. But you keep walking, because there is no end to this, only forward. And then one day maybe, something different. Not light, not warmth, but movement. Ahead through the red haze, you see a figure. Not a tree, not a shadow. A person, alive. You freeze, unsure. Not because they frighten you, but because you forgot people existed outside your group. The figure sees you. They stop, then raise one hand, not in warning, in recognition, like they've seen this before. You approach slowly. Behind them are others, a tribe but smaller, strangers, but not strangers to this suffering. They speak in sounds you don't know, but they speak with eyes and hands. They offer water, dried roots, shelter. You sit beside their fire, if it can be called that. It barely glows, fed with damp lichen and twigs, but it burns. That's what matters. The warmth brushes your skin like a memory, faint and almost painful. You breathe slower, not because you feel safe, but because you feel seen. That night no one speaks. You watch the ash drift in the air like slow snow. You watch the fire flicker, and you think, maybe this is what survival looks like now. Not triumph, not rebuilding, just sharing a flame in the belly of the storm, and knowing that someone, somewhere else, might be doing the same. The fire barely holds. It crackles with effort, not ease. Every few minutes, someone leans forward and feeds it a pinch of dried moss or the last curls of bark, coaxing flame from embers with breath that smells of ash and blood. This isn't the kind of fire that dances or sings. This is the kind that survives, thin and watchful, like you. You sit huddled near it with the others, your knees tucked into your chest, your fingers raw from scraping soot off stone to build a windbreak. The air outside the cave is too thick to breathe for long. Inside, it's only slightly better. You can feel the weight of it pressing in, like being buried slowly while still alive. Everything is slow now. Your movements, your thoughts, even your hunger. Days blur. You measure time by the aches in your stomach, the rasp in your throat, the silence of birds that never returned. You haven't heard a wolf howl since before the sky disappeared. Not even a scavenger cry. It's as if the world has taken a breath and decided not to let it out. You don't dream anymore. There's nothing left in your mind but survival. You chew roots, you lick moisture from the walls of the cave. You press your ear to the ground sometimes, listening for movement, not of animals, but of the earth itself. It groans now and then, deep and slow, not always loud, but always there, like it's alive beneath you, turning over in its sleep. One night, if it is night, you wake up choking, your mouth full of ash, your chest fighting itself for air. Someone beside you is doing the same, their hands clawing at their neck. A child sobs through a cough that doesn't stop. The cave is filling with smoke, not from the fire, from outside. You scramble to your feet and grab whatever you can. Fur, stone blade, the small bundle of food you've been saving without knowing why. You don't have time to think. No one does. You just move. You run. Out into the red air. The smoke tears into your eyes. Your lungs feel like they're bleeding. You fall once, scraping your knee on a jagged stone. But the pain doesn't slow you. You see the others ahead, dark shapes stumbling, crawling, carrying each other up the slope beyond the cave. The fire has moved closer. You see it now, not just as a glow, but as a shape, wide, boiling, alive. A moving wall of heat and death, not flame but ashfall and stone. Clouds that don't drift, but pour. You've never seen the sky fall before, but now it's coming down in layers. You climb higher, step by burning step, until you reach the ridge, and you stop. Not because you're safe, but because the view steals the breath you don't have. Below you, the world is gone. What was once valley and river and forest is now a roiling sea of red and grey. Fire streaks through the clouds like lightning turned inside out. Trees crumble into blackness, rocks melt, the sky churns with thunderless storm. You understand now. This isn't a storm, this isn't weather, this is the earth exhaling. You fall to your knees, not in prayer, not in surrender, just because your legs can't carry the weight of what you're seeing. No one speaks, not even the children. The heat on your face is unbearable, even from here. Your skin feels wrong, tight, too hot, too dry. The air smells like boiled bone, and still, you're alive. You don't know why, you don't know how, but you are. You press your face into the crook of your arm and wait. Not for rescue, not for hope, just for the heat to pass, for the air to thicken again with breath you can steal, for the fire to move on. Eventually, it does. Not all at once. It recedes like a beast that's had its fill. Slowly, cruelly. When it goes, the silence it leaves behind is worse than the roar. The wind dies completely. The sky above is ink. Not black, but wet black. Thick, soupy like smoke pressed into cloth. You find another cave, higher this time, narrower. It offers no comfort, but at least it's away from the edge. You crawl in with the others, still coughing, still blinking soot from your eyes. And then finally someone laughs. A dry, cracked thing. Not joyful, not even sane, but laughter. And that's what breaks the silence. Others join in, hollow, wheezing, tear-streaked. It's not funny. Nothing is. But the laughter comes anyway. A pressure valve breaking open. A reminder that even now your chest can hold more than fear. It fades quickly, but the echo remains. You sit in the dark, back to the stone, and let your breathing slow. Your hands are black with soot. Your lips are cracked. Your eyes sting with every blink. But you feel your pulse. You feel your breath. You're still here. That means something. That means everything. Later, someone takes out a shard of ochre, a dull red stone smoothed by years of use, and begins to draw on the cave wall. Lines, circles, a figure. Smoke rising from its mouth, fire behind its back. You watch, and you realise what it is. Memory. Even here, even now, you are writing down what it means to suffer, to endure. The volcano tried to erase you, but you answered back with art. And that's what makes you human. The cave holds your scent now. Smoke, sweat, ash and fear baked into the stone. You don't smell it anymore. But it's there, a signature, proof that you existed in this place. That something lived here when the world outside tried to make sure nothing ever would again. You wake slowly. There's no dawn, no shift in light. Just the warmth of your own breath pressing back against your face. The weight of another body nearby. And the ache in your ribs that reminds you you're still breathing. You sit up. The fire is out. No one speaks. Not because they're asleep, but because words have become optional. You've grown used to silence. It is more honest than panic, more practical than prayer. Most mornings begin like this, if it can be called morning. You watch each other wake like animals sniffing the wind. You count how many are still here. Someone coughs behind you. Someone else mutters something in a language you don't speak, but you understand. It's the kind of sound that says, it's time. Time to find fuel, time to find food, time to keep going, even if there's nowhere to go. The ground outside is blackened, not just with ash, but with something heavier, oil-like, clumped. The fallout has changed texture. It doesn't drift now, it clings. It sticks to skin, to fur, to lungs. The air no longer smells like fire. It smells like rot, like the inside of the earth is bleeding. You squint into the wind and pull the wrap tighter around your face. You feel it in your stomach. Hunger is no longer a feeling. It's a companion, always present, always whispering. The roots you find are thin and bitter. Your tongue has learned how to swallow without tasting. Your gut has learned how to accept what it shouldn't. One of the children finds a bird today, a single, stunned thing. Soot-coloured, eyes wide and dazed, its feathers matted with grime. It flaps in circles, too weak to flee. You watch as they catch it. No celebration, no guilt, just silence, as it's wrapped in cloth and taken back to the cave. It's food, you'll share it. No one will get full, but it will be enough to push back death for another night. Back in the cave, they start the fire with what little remains of the old kindling. Bark shaved thin, the last scrap of dried hide. You watch the sparks catch and bloom into something soft and golden. Fire, once a comfort, is now something you coax from the edge of extinction. Every flame is a negotiation with the dark. As it grows, the cave shifts. The walls come alive again with shadows. The outlines of your companions stretch and flicker like spirits. One of the elders sits close, warming their hands. Their fingers are scarred, burned long ago, but they still move with care. They hold a rock in one hand, a piece of charcoal in the other, and begin marking the wall again. You crawl closer. The new drawings show a figure with a burning crown. Not a king, but a warning. Beneath it, waves of ash, dead trees, cracked rivers, and among it all, small figures walking in a line. You know who they are. You know what it means. This isn't just memory, it's instruction. This is how we survived. This is where we ran. This is how we kept the fire alive. You feel something move in your chest, not hope exactly, something older, a thread pulling you forward, through the soot and silence. A sense that even if no one remembers your name, they might remember your shape on this wall. And that matters. Later, you help rebuild the fire ring. Stones around the edge, flattened by years of heat. You arrange them in a circle without thinking. Your hands know what to do now. You used to think survival was about teeth and speed. Now you understand. It's about rhythm. It's about waking up every day, even when there is no sun, and doing the same thing anyway. Sharpen the blade, check the smoke, count the mouths, find water, keep moving. You've seen what happens when that rhythm breaks. One woman in the group stopped eating last week. Not because there was none, but because she didn't want to anymore. She just sat, staring into the fire, her eyes hollow, her breath shallow. One day she lay down and didn't get back up. No one said anything. You didn't bury her, you couldn't. The ground was too hard. Instead you built the fire higher that night. Let the heat rise a little more. Let her lie a little warmer. The wind outside screams less often now, but when it does, it sounds more like a memory than a threat. A long, low breath across the bones of the land. The eruption still burns somewhere beyond the horizon, but it feels tired, like a monster retreating to its cave after feeding. There's no peace in this new world, only quiet. And quiet, you've learned, is a kind of mercy. You lie down near the fire, eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling. Once they might have been meaningless. Now they're a map, a record. You know which stone drips water after the smoke, which crevice holds the tiny insects you crush for protein, which shape the soot makes when the wind changes. This is your world now. Not the old one. Not the one with sun and rivers and fruit that grew heavy in your hand. But this one. Dark, cold, black-breathed, and still breathing. That's what matters. You survived the fire. Now comes the part the fire never knew how to kill. The part where you remember. The part where you begin to rebuild. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the suffocating hush of ashfall. Not the hollow quiet of grief. This silence is different, lighter, still eerie, but thinner somehow, like a blanket being slowly pulled back. You step outside the cave and realise you can see farther than before. Not far, but farther. The air is still heavy, but no longer clawing at your throat. The ash has begun to settle into the earth, packing down into layers of grey. And above you, faint, barely real, is light. Not sun exactly, a pale suggestion of it. A ghost of gold trying to find its way through a sky still soaked in ash. But it's there, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you squint. The others notice too. They don't cheer, they don't cry. They just stop what they're doing and look up. Faces hollow and cracked, arms slack at their sides. Just looking. You can't tell if they believe it. You don't even know if you believe it. But for one long breath, no one coughs. No one moves. Because something is returning. Not the world you knew. That one is gone. But something. That night you burn what's left of the old kindling and let the flames rise higher. You don't need to conserve it as much now. There are more dry twigs nearby. The ground is hard again, not soft like ash, and when the wind moves, it smells less like rot. There are no stars, but the fire feels brighter. You sit close with the others, watching it. The children don't play, not yet, but they sit up straighter. They eat without being coaxed. The hunger has become normal now, but so has endurance. Their limbs are stronger, their eyes a little more alert, like saplings bending back toward light. One of the elders speaks, not to give orders, not to warn, just to speak. They begin with a name of someone long gone, then another, and another. Names spoken into the fire like prayers or seeds being planted. You don't remember all of them, but you remember the rhythm. The way it filled the cave with something other than silence. It becomes a ritual, a new kind. Every night someone adds a name, sometimes a face, sometimes a story. You tell one too, about a girl who wrapped her hands in hide and pulled her brother out of a pit of mud when no one else could. About a man who made fire without flint, using only a stick and his breath and his will. You don't know if it was true, but no one questions it. Truth, now is what keeps you human, and staying human is harder than you thought. You begin to notice how easy it is to become something else, something that eats anything, sleeps anywhere, forgets old kindnesses in favour of new hungers. But the fire, the stories, the rituals, they hold the line. They keep the animal in you at bay. Not always, not perfectly, but enough. You start to teach the children more than survival. You show them how to shape stone into arrowheads again. Not because there's game yet, but because there will be. You show them how to build a snare, how to find fresh water beneath layers of soot, how to dig into frozen bark and find worms that squirm with life. They watch you, eyes wide, hungry not for food, but for knowledge. It's the first hunger that hasn't hurt, and that's when you realise you're not just surviving anymore, you're adapting. The cave walls are filling with drawings, not just of fire and ash, but of figures, walking, reaching, holding each other up. One drawing shows a group facing a mountain, another shows a hand over a mouth, wrapped in hide like the masks you all wore when the air was poison. The drawings tell the story of how you lived, how you kept living, and you begin to feel something else inside you, something you haven't dared name, a direction, not a destination. That's still unclear, but a pull. You start exploring again. Not far, not recklessly, but you move beyond the old boundaries. You mark trees with cuts. You trace the shape of the land under the soot. You find a creek, half frozen, half clear. It runs slow, like it's remembering how. But it runs, and in its shadow something grows. Tiny, green, a plant. You kneel beside it, not touching, just breathing near it, watching the leaf tremble in the breeze. You don't call anyone. You don't need to. This is a private moment between you and the world that once tried to kill you. It didn't succeed. You walk back slowly, your hands black with soot, your belly still half empty, your face lined by time and smoke and hunger. But your back is straight, your eyes are clear. The others see it in you. Something in the way you carry the water, something in the way you hum that sound that used to mean joy. Even if you don't know the word for it anymore, they feel it too. The shift, the beginning of something not yet bright, but less dark. That night, no one speaks for a long while. Then a child draws something in the soot beside the fire, a circle, then rays around it. You recognise it, the sun, not as it is, but as it could be. No one corrects them, because hope doesn't need permission. It only needs a place to land. The ash still falls sometimes. Thin, lazy flakes drifting from a sky that hasn't quite remembered what it means to be blue. But it's different now. Sparse, lighter. You can walk through it without choking. You can look up and see shapes again. Clouds, maybe. Real ones. Not smoke pretending. The ground has hardened in places. Your footprints last longer. The wind doesn't erase them the moment you pass. You've started to notice small changes. Cracks in the silence. The return of sound. Drips of water off stone. The murmur of thawing streams. Once, weeks ago, you thought you heard the cry of a bird. You didn't see it, but the sound stopped you in your tracks. A sharp fluted call, across the valley like an echo from another life. Everyone heard it. No one spoke, just eyes wide, breath held. The sound didn't come again, but that one cry did something no fire ever could. It reminded you that the world isn't dead, just wounded. You move differently now, less like prey, more like scouts. The soot masks are still around your necks, but you don't wear them as often. You no longer walk hunched, no longer sleep with one eye open. You've begun marking the days again, not by stars or sun, but by pattern. The creek flows longer each day. That matters. The cave grows warmer in the mornings. That matters. Your legs don't ache from hunger quite as quickly. That matters too. A new rhythm has taken root in the tribe. At sunrise, or what passes for it, you gather near the opening of the cave. The fire is still central, but not desperate. It's just a fire now, not a god, not a guardian, a tool like before, like it was meant to be. You sit around it, not just to survive the cold, but to share it. Someone boils water, someone sings. Yes, you've started singing again. The songs are new, low and simple, just tone and breath and a few words passed from mouth to mouth, but they're yours. Born here, in the ashen dark, you sing to the plants you find breaking through the soot. You sing when a rabbit's track is discovered. You sing when the fire starts on the first try. The children sing the loudest. They don't remember the old world the way you do. Their memories begin with fire and hunger and soot. But already they are building something else atop it. Something steadier, less afraid. They climb the slopes near the cave now. They build games with sticks. They laugh at shadows. They are what survival looks like. Not you, not the scars on your hands or the ache in your joints, but them, running, laughing, drawing suns and rivers you haven't yet seen again, but might. They are the part of the story the fire couldn't reach. You've started walking farther, mapping again, reclaiming paths buried months ago. The landmarks are changed, rivers have shifted, forests are thinner, but you find your way. You find old bones, charred trees, campsites swallowed by ash, but you also find life, a bush, stubborn and green, growing crooked from a scorched hillside. A fox darting through the brush, lean but alive. You follow it for a while, not to catch it, just to remember what it feels like to move towards something other than fear. Later, you return to the ridge, the one where you watch the sky fall. You haven't been back since that night. The slope is different now, less sharp, covered in layers of hardened ash, cracked in places where grass tries to return. You climb in silence. At the top you stop, and you see it. The crater. Far in the distance, the heart of the eruption. Still smouldering, still raw, but no longer rising, no longer reaching for the heavens. The smoke that once swallowed the world is now a thin veil, clinging to the rim. It's quiet, not dead, but resting. You stand there a long time. You think of the ones who didn't make it, their names whispered in caves, their faces drawn on stone. Their last breaths given so someone else could have one more step. You press your hand to the earth, warm under the soot, and say nothing. There's nothing to say, only one truth that matters now. You are still here, not just as a person, but as a people, as a memory made real. You carry with you more than hunger, more than pain. You carry stories, tools, fire, language. You carry songs, myths, maps scratched in bone and soot, and you carry the will to continue. Not because you're brave, but because the world asked you a question, and you answered. It asked, will you endure? And you said, yes. Not with a roar, not with glory, but with the soft crackle of fire in a stone ring, with the careful drawing of a handprint on a cave wall, with the planting of a single seed in the ash. The mountain sleeps now, and so will you. But before you close your eyes, you look once more at the horizon. It's still grey, but you swear, just for a second. You see the first edge of blue. You wake to birdsong, not imagined, not echoed in memory. Real, sharp, clear, a high-pitched trill that dances through the stillness, like fire once danced in your hands. It stops you mid-breath. Your eyes flutter open, not from fear, but from disbelief. It came from a tree, an actual tree, thin, bent, scorched at the edges, but green at the tips. You rise slowly, brushing away ash that still clings to your skin like a second layer of time. The cave behind you is quieter now. Fewer coughs, deeper sleep. The tribe breathes evenly. They've survived the worst of it. You step out into the pale light. The sky is no longer a stranger, still smeared with the haze of what was, but no longer angry, no longer thick enough to crush your lungs. The air is sharp, cool, and carries the weight of everything it's been through. But it is air, clean enough to fill you without pain. You walk without your mask. Your feet find the trail you helped forge, a winding path beaten through soot and memory, stretching out into a valley that is, against all odds, trying to bloom. Tiny grasses break through the crust of ash. The creek now babbles instead of gurgling. It flows clear in parts, clouded in others. You kneel beside it and cup water into your hands. Cold, metallic, but pure enough to drink. You sip slowly, reverently, letting it touch every part of your mouth before swallowing. You remember when this simple act was unthinkable. The fire has died down to a tool, not a crutch. You still build it, still tend to it. But now you can step away without fear it won't return. You've taught the children to strike sparks, to stack wood, to keep the embers fed. You've taught them to remember, because remembering is its own kind of survival. Sometimes you catch them tracing shapes on the cave walls, not beasts, not storms, people, figures holding hands, carrying baskets, laughing. You don't ask them to stop, you don't even tell them to continue, you just watch. And in that silence, something new takes root inside you. Not just the will to survive, but the desire to live. To stretch beyond the cave, beyond the ash, beyond the edges of what fear once defined. You begin scouting out new shelters. Not because you have to flee, but because you might expand. You study the sky, not to plead for mercy, but to learn when it rains, when it warms, how it changes. There is rhythm again, not the rhythm of collapse, but of return. You speak the names of the dead, not in mourning anymore, but in honour. You weave their memories into song, into fable. They walk with you. Every step you take is made possible by the ones who didn't finish the trail. Some days you feel guilt. Most days you feel awe, because you have seen what the earth can do. You have watched it try to erase you. You've breathed its poison, walked through its fire, touched the bones of its fury, and you're still here. That is not a small thing. You gather around the fire one last time, not because the story ends here, but because the first chapter is complete. The cave will still be yours. The memories carved into its walls will remain. But tomorrow, you'll begin walking somewhere new. Not to escape, to grow. As the flames flicker low, the children sing the sun song again. The one with no words, just a rising hum that follows the light up the slope. They hold hands, they smile, they dance, ungracefully, full of life. You don't join them, you just close your eyes and listen. You think of the mountain, still sleeping, and you wonder if, beneath all that stone and heat, the fire still dreams of swallowing the world. Maybe it does, but maybe it too is tired. Maybe it too has seen what you've seen. That there is something in the human spirit the ash could not bury. Something in the voice that kept whispering in the dark, even when it had no one left to answer. You kept going, through fire, through hunger, through loss so wide it cracked your voice in half. You endured. And now the world begins again, not with a roar, but with breath. And you are here to take it.